What's going on, Dub Nation? Welcome to the NBA Trade Deadline Day. I am your host of Warriors Today, Allie Barefoot, and previous reports show the Warriors are actively seeking a trade by the NBA trade deadline. Whether that'll happen, I don't know. I know Steve Kerr doesn't want any of his players to go, but there are still numerous players on the chopping block that could be with another team by 3 p.m. Eastern Time today. One of those players, unfortunately, is Klay Thompson. His name has been surrounding the NBA rumors for a while now. However, last night he had a phenomenal game against Philadelphia 76ers. And after the game, he said, look, I don't really partake in NBA discourse. I think that's such a waste of energy. And at the end of the day, whether I'm wearing a Dubs uniform or another uniform, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be KT. This is a lot different attitude than we heard earlier this season when he said, I want to be a Warrior for life. Obviously, Klay Thompson doesn't want to get traded, but he also didn't accept a $48 million two-year deal with the Warriors before the season started. So now that he's not playing up to his standards, and by standards, I mean Klay Thompson standards, while he had a good game against 76ers, who's to say Klay Thompson couldn't be traded today? But nonetheless, go on ahead and hit that sub button, because if you guys want any breaking news about the Golden State Warriors trade deadline or anything that comes after the deadline, go on ahead and hit that subscribe button, because you do not want to be the only Warriors fan that doesn't know what's going on. Let's going to talk about the top 5 trade targets here for the Golden State Warriors heading into the deadline by the end of the day. So Kyle Kuzma, of course, has been on the Golden State Warriors list for a while now. They've been looking for another star to accompany Steph Curry since Klay Thompson hasn't been as consistent as he normally is. And when you bring in Kyle Kuzma, you automatically add another star to the Golden State Warriors. You add a secondary scorer as he's averaging 22 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, which is phenomenal, 45% from the field, 32% for three-point line, but that's never really been his MO. Plus, he's averaging about 31.5 minutes per game for the Wizards right now, who are in the bottom tier of the Eastern Conference. But nonetheless, the Wizards actually did change their asking price for Kyle Kuzma, which is pretty good for the Warriors. They stated they're not demanding 2 first-round picks for Kyle Kuzma, and their asking price may be lower. So this definitely is a trade. If I was Mike Dunleavy, I would absolutely make a call to the Washington Wizards organization, because 2 first picks is a lot. Less than 2 first picks, I think that would be huge to obtain a secondary scorer and a big guy right now for the Golden State Warriors, but there's still plenty of trade targets to discuss. The next one being an actual true big, and it's going to come from Nic Claxton. This is my favorite trade target for the Golden State Warriors right now. He's not as expensive at the current moment. He's less than $10 million, and he is one of the best rim protectors in the league. I think Nic Claxton can come in and immediately make an impact. I don't think Kevon Looney has been impactful for the Warriors this season. Dario's been out and in. And of course, Draymond Green still isn't a true center for the Golden State Warriors. So if you bring in somebody like Nic Claxton, who just played the Warriors a few nights ago, he had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 7 blocks. When I say he's one of the best rim protectors in the league, I'm not kidding. And he shot 77% from the field. Not to mention, Nic Claxton can defend at all 5 positions. I've seen him lock up Curry a time or two. He's not afraid to go up and defend a point guard if need be, and he's great in off-ball guarding as well. I think that Nic Claxton would immediately push the needle for the starting lineup for the Warriors. Not somebody coming off the bench, but he is going to be a big asking price. You're going to have to include a Moses Moody and an Andrew Wiggins in this trade to obtain Nic Claxton, but the Brooklyn Nets have said they're completely open to taking some calls. That leads me to my third trade target here with Alex Caruso from the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls have been back and forth on whether or not they want to be a buyer or a seller by the NBA trade deadline. However, a new report came out yesterday from TNT's Chris Haynes that they're just looking to rebuild now. They're just looking to be competitive this season, which is not what they have been saying since before the regular season started. But nonetheless, I do think that if the Golden State Warriors make a good enough trade to the Chicago Bulls, they could obtain somebody like Alex Caruso, which would be huge on the defensive side of the ball. The Warriors are struggling with their defensive rating right now. Alex Caruso has about 113 defensive rating. For example, Draymond Green only has 115, although he's only played about half the games. I think Caruso brings up the Warriors defense almost immediately. because of how he's been playing for the pretty sore lacking Chicago Bulls right now. But nonetheless, if they're going to go back and forth on whether or not they want to be a buyer or a seller, it's still worth a call to see if Caruso is still available by the NBA trade deadline. They've made some calls about Zach LaVine. They've made some calls about Andre Drummond. And they actually already called about Alex Caruso before Zach LaVine's season-ending surgery happened. So obviously, they've been pretty interested in Alex Caruso so far this season. So why not go ahead and make a call now? Nonetheless, because Chicago Bulls have been so back and forth, do you think it's even worth the Golden State Warriors making a trade for a Chicago Bull? That can be for DeMar DeRozan, that can be for Andre Drummond, that can be for Alex Caruso, or any other names that they reportedly used to want to send away and trade everybody out so they can start rebuilding. But nonetheless, it might be getting a little too messy. Go ahead and comment that down below. While you guys are doing that, I have to give a huge shout out to one of our sponsors here on Warriors Today. That is Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America right now. I'm playing it, and here's why you guys should be too. It's super easy. It takes less than 60 seconds to help you win up to 25 times your money. All you have to do is pick between 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats, and you can win real money in real time. And of course, I know I have a lot of Bay Area fans in here. A lot of you guys are Niners fans. Well, the big game is coming up. So I do have Christian McCaffrey to have more than 88.5 rushing yards. Travis Kelce to have more than 70.5 rushing yards, receiving yards, because, Kelce is Kelce. And then George Kittle to have more than 49.5 receiving yards as well. These are my picks for the big game coming up on Sunday. If you guys want to make your picks, it's not too late. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use promo code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100 and watch yourself win some real money in real time. Bojan Bogdanovic is the 4th trade target here for the Golden State Warriors because the Detroit Pistons are extremely active right now ahead of the trade deadline. There are numerous reports out there that Bogdanovic could be traded away from the Detroit Pistons by 3 p.m. Eastern time today. So why not be the Golden State Warriors? This would be a needle pusher next to Steph Curry. He's got 20.2 points per game. He'd be the second highest scorer on the Golden State Warriors immediately once he was traded. 3.4 rebounds per game, definitely be a little bit higher there. 47% from the field, 42% from the three-point line is phenomenal for Bogdanovic, especially since the Detroit Pistons have just completely sucked this year. So they're looking just completely clean house. Obviously, everybody other than Cade Cunningham. And I think Bogdanovic could definitely be a huge help with the Golden State Warriors offense primarily. A secondary scorer has been huge for the Golden State Warriors all season long, as Steph Curry has pretty much been carrying this team on his back. So I think Bogdanovic should be a trade target until this deadline has ceased. Last but not least, a more unlikely top trade target, but nonetheless, the Warriors have had interest in Dejounte Murray since the Atlanta Hawks have opened up and said that they are willing to give it a trade. However, league sources do say a deal between Golden State and Murray is tepid at best, pretty much meaning that it's just lukewarm. There's really nothing moving there. There have been a lot of reports that Dejounte Murray could become a Los Angeles Laker, and if I'm Mike Dunleavy and I hear that report, I'm going to use that as a little bit of fuel, knowing I don't want Dejounte Murray going to the Lakers. Why? Because he is a phenomenal offensive player. Is he not playing very great next to Trae Young right now? Yeah, but you'll have that. 21.5 points per game, 5 assists, 5 rebounds as well. 46% from the field and 37% from the three-point line. He's giving me Klay Thompson stats prior to this year. Nonetheless, there are still numerous trade candidates the Warriors could send away. All of these names have been on the chopping block once, if not twice, throughout the regular season. Of course, Andrew Wiggins, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, who is the highest paid player on the trade target right now. Moses Moody and Kevon Looney is the most recent trade candidate for the Golden State Warriors, as his stats have been pretty lackluster, and he costs $7.5 million a year. Overall, my take for the Golden State Warriors ahead of the trade deadline is to get rid of Andrew Wiggins. I think it's time. If anything, it's just a distraction to keep having Wiggins have these trade talks, to keep having Wiggins have inconsistent games. He had 21 points last night against the Philadelphia 76ers, but It's also trade deadline time, so it's pretty interesting that Wiggins now wants to come alive. I think the best trade target available for the Golden State Warriors is $9.6 million player Nic Claxton. I think he would be huge. He would hit numerous needs for the Warriors, including a true big, a secondary scorer, and he's just going to bring some defense alive for a team that has been in the bottom of the standings in the NBA throughout the season in their defensive ratings. But you're going to have to package Moody and Wiggins to make this happen. But nonetheless, it's Mike Dunleavy's call. That's just my opinion. The reason why we have Warriors today is because I give you my opinion. I show you the stats, then you guys give me your opinion, and let's talk about it. So name a player the Warriors should trade for. If it's not any of these 5 trade targets, totally fine. Go ahead and name a player down below you would like to see in the blue and gold by 3 p.m. Eastern time today, as the NBA trade deadline is finally here. One more time, go on ahead and hit that sub button for me. If anything does happen with the Golden State Warriors, I'm going to be reporting about it immediately. You guys do not want to miss out, as this is the most hectic day of the NBA season. So go on ahead and hit that sub button for me.